meditation, not merely a space for self-inquiry. And then you said you talk about it.
There aren't so many separate things. Self-inquiry, meditation, and the space for self-inquiry. There aren't so many things. See, it's very simple. Here as you are looking at me. You are sitting on a platform. You are wearing these clothes. You are proximate to someone else. You can see there is light falling on you. You can hear the sound of the river. All of this is there. Does it ever happen that all this ceases? So there is always something for you, right? There is always something around you, within you, up, down, left, right, somewhere. There always does exist something for you. Have you ever been in a space where there is absolute blankness, a great void? No. So the world is always present. Self-inquiry means that which you perceive as present, you just ask, what is it? And that is self-inquiry. For self-inquiry, you neither need preparation nor practice nor any kind of space, because the world is presenting itself to you all the time. When something is present in front of you all the time, then you have a great opportunity to inquire in two ways. One, what is it that I am seeing? Second, who is the seer? Who is the seer is not a very obvious question, because your eyes always look outwards. When the eyes look outwards, you will not want to ask who is the seer. You will want to ask, what is that object I am looking at? So even the question, what is the world, is a question of self-inquiry. Now you don't have to go somewhere or prepare yourself or enter into any kind of sadhana to ask this question, because the world, I repeat, is presenting itself to you. In fact, the world is forcing itself down your senses at every moment. Are you ever free of the world? Does it ever happen that you open your eyes and do not see anything? Does it ever happen that your ears don't hear anything? So the world is always bringing itself to you. Self-inquiry means just ask, what is it? What is it? That is self-inquiry. And if you go a step further, then self-inquiry means, who is the seer of the world? Which comes as the question, who am I?
Yes, but I mean, you said don't practice meditation, right? You were quite clear on that. But in most people's lives, I would say, when you're at work or you're doing this or doing that, you're not really able to, or it's extremely difficult to routinely stay in that place where you're asking, who is the seer? What am I seeing? You know, because you're in the mind, basically.
Okay, freeze here.
Yeah. So
Suppose we will look at this statement itself, then proceed.
All right.
So you talked about most people and how they go about with their lives.
Yeah.
So I am experiencing, so let's say I am a common man who is experiencing pleasure or pain or strife or fear or hope or something. Now what is most relevant to me at this time? I am a man who is hoping for pleasure. What is it that holds the greatest relevance to me at this moment? My mind is full of thoughts of pleasure. Now what holds the greatest importance for me at this time? The answer is obvious. What is the answer? Pleasure. So I am already in that space, because pleasure is already important for me. Self-inquiry is just about being ruthlessly honest with yourself. Now that pleasure is important to you, would you be so stupid as to not to ask, what is it that is important to me? It is not as if that space is not available, that space for self-inquiry is not available. I am finding pleasure or fear in something. So that thing is so very crucial, important, significant and relevant. Is it not?
It is. I'm not saying it's not available. But what I'm saying is, how realistic is it?
You tell me, is it not?
Sorry?
Is it not? If there is a cup of tea in front of me,
Right.
and if I am not totally stupid, will I not want to know something about that cup and the tea? It holds an importance. It is the only thing that holds an importance when I am about to sip the tea. Will I not want to know? So self-inquiry is just about having that basic intelligence, not being so dumb as to not even ask what is going on.
You say it's basic, but it happens to be very rare.
It happens to be very rare because we have made it complex.
I understand, but what I'm saying then, given that, is meditation not something that people in general can do to create and develop that way?
I'm asking you, I'm experiencing hope. And I want to know what hope is, because it is my nature to know. But instead of being assured that I can immediately know, some guru, some teacher, some pandit has told me that I require an elaborate process to know. And process requires effort, time, tiredness, everything. I'm in a particular state. It is my nature to know the essence of that state. But somebody has convinced me that it is beyond me to know unless I follow a long drawn method. Now will I know? Okay, I'll give you an example. I know of a man who is able to take bath only once a week. You know why? Because he follows a religious practice which says that if you have to take a bath, you will have to perform half an hour of puja after the bath, and also before you enter the bathroom you will have to prepare your body in such and such ways, which again requires half an hour. So a simple and basic thing like taking a bath becomes unavailable to him because he has to follow a process. Does process shorten the journey or does process create the distance? Taking a bath is something so obvious and available. Throw away your clothes and pour water over yourself. Go splash. That's what is meant by taking bath, right? But the Guru has told me that if you want to take bath, and bath is sacred and important, and bath is available only to residents of heaven, and some ancient scripture contains the methods of taking bath. So if you want to take bath, first of all, you have to gently and slowly breathe in. Then you have to unbutton your shirt. Then you have to feel the snake rising up your spine. And then when you touch your pant, you have to believe that you are touching the Mooladhar. And then you have to gently open the buttons there. And then you have to remember Shiva. And then you have to take your pant and do a parikrama while you are nude. And then maybe you have to wrap your legs round your chest. And in that position you have to go up to the bathroom. Walking on your butts. How frequently now will you take bath? Does the process make it easy or does the process make it so difficult for you? In spirituality, we are dealing with that which is nearer than the nearest. Why do you need the process? Even taking a bath is something of a distance. But when you are talking of God, God is nearer than the nearest, and you are saying you need a process, a method. And by following a process, you have made God sit there, so far away.
It also means that we are all the time we are getting away from it.
Yes, of course. The more you think of reaching God, the more you will want a way to reach God. And you will be pushed further away.
Just the word reaching God again.
So now, you would advise me, what do I tell that friend of mine who is able to take a bath only once a week or once in 14 days? Sometimes he says that if I want to take a bath, I'll have to go to Rishikesh. He believes that in his own city, there is no water. Water is there only in Rishikesh. What do I advise him?
I don't like the bath analogy. I don't think it works because meditation for most people will be the first opportunity they have had for self-inquiry.
What is meditation or self-inquiry for? Why must one meditate or why must one enter into self-inquiry? For the sake of peace, right?
Yeah.
Ultimately for that. How far is that?
What do you mean?
How far is peace from you?
What, in time? What are you talking about?
It is because you want peace that you try meditation, self-inquiry, this and that. Huh? You're trying all these methods. I'm asking, when you are trying all these methods, please tell me how far is peace? Surely you think that peace is very far away. That's why you're trying all these methods.
I'm not trying all these methods, but I do meditate. Yeah.
Correct me wherever you find some lacuna. If you are perfectly alright, joyful, loving, peaceful, do you need meditation? Do you need any method? So whenever you are trying a method, you want something. I'm asking, how far is that from you which you really, really want?
Far enough.
Very far, right? And who told you that? Somebody.
What, that it's far?
That it is far.
Well, you just did.
Huh?
I feel it. I feel it.
Were you feeling this way even 20 years back? Say yes.
My whole life, yeah.
20 years prior to 20 years? Even 20 years before that?
Not 60.
So there was a particular point when you started feeling that way.
There was a point at which I was more aware of why I had felt like that in the past. Yes. And it was the practice of meditation which helped me to,
Meditation comes in only when you feel something is far away. When did it become far away for you? Can you go into that? When the child is born, it is not saying that peace is far away. The squirrel and the river and the dog are not saying that peace is far away. When exactly did peace become something far away for you?
When you cut an identity in the process of a little
Say something about
When you started going into processes, when you started going into man-made stuff, that is when you made God and peace distant from you. And first of all, you make them distant by using your own methods and devices. And then you use your own methods and devices even more to reach up to there. You don't realize that you are the one who has made him distant. Your own tricks, your own acrobatics. Just stop your acrobatics. And peace is so close. You don't need a method then.
So how do you propose to take us back? How do you propose to...
How did you go far from it? First of all, if we can understand that, then we'll also know how to regain.
it's the conditioning.
Huh?
It's conditioning.
So somebody told you, you were 5 years old, and somebody told you, unless you get an A grade, you are not worth living. And you got within yourself the thought of incompleteness. Now peace is far away. Then somebody told you, you are 15 years old, that unless you have a girlfriend, you can't prove that you are lovable. Now God has receded even further away. More incompleteness. Don't you see that it is the social influence sitting on the physical infrastructure that has made you feel that peace is distant and hence a road is needed? Conditioning made you feel that way. Now more of conditioning will not make you feel any better.
So do you propose, how do you propose to deepen? How do you propose to undo?
When can conditioning have a grip on you? Only as long as you do not know that it is conditioning. All conditioning is an act of violence, right? Is it not?
Yes.
But will you allow an act of violence to be held as important by you? You allow that violence to remain with you only because you name it as love. You allow that trivia to remain with you only because you name it as important. Now here, right now, declare that it is rubbish and it goes away. Sitting over here, declare that all that which you have been trained in, all that which has become a part of your identity is just gibberish and it is gone. Till the time you keep taking it as sacred and valuable, it will stay with you. If you keep saying that my religion gave it to me, how can it be rubbish? If you keep saying that my mama gave it to me and mama used to love me, so how can I drop that which mama gave to me? You will keep holding it.
Even after the self has been seen, it still has a grip.
It cannot have a grip if you clearly see that it is hurting you. If you have seen that the coal in your hand is burning you, will you still have a grip over it? It will go. But if due to some reason you have been given a sacred belief that holding burning coal in your hand leads you to heaven, or leads you to social acceptance, or leads you to the Nobel Prize, then you will keep holding it. Just see that it is leading you and it has led you only to hell. And to accept that it has led you only to hell, you will have to be humble enough to accept that your life is hell. And if you don't have that humility, then peace is not for you. Most of us, firstly, don't want to confess the facts of our life. We want to keep displaying as if we are very happy. It is a part of culture, right? You meet someone and what do you display to him? The moment you meet someone, what do you display to him? Do you display your tears? Do you display your angst?
Smile.
Immediately you display your smile. Do you know what it conveys? Everything is alright with you. This falseness, this lie that you have been speaking to others has also been internalized by you. You have actually started feeling as if life is alright. The fact is that life stinks. And if you don't admit that, then you are condemning yourself to more of stink. Does it ever happen that you meet a stranger and show him your wounded heart? In fact, if you do that, he will run away. He'll think you are a psychopath or something. You're supposed to be smiling all the time. And that is even more so in the West. Indians don't do so much of that. Westerners have this morbid fascination with smiling. And why do you smile? What is there to smile? Is this smile coming out of a heartfelt joy? No. It is coming just out of a fear of facing the facts. Nice weather. Now the weather is absolutely rotten. And what do you say? Nice weather. Nice. Good day. Good day. Ask your mind, is it really a good day? Good night.
So how do you propose, like, that's an intellectual idea, how do you propose to get it past the intellectual understanding?
We are actively doing something at this moment to not to encounter what life really is like. What is it that we are doing?
I'm on vacations.
So you are vacationing. You are vacationing, and when you are vacationing, you tell yourself that life can be relaxed and leisurely. Do you intend to remain vacationing?
That's the proper.
So this vacation is just an escape. You very well know that the return ticket is on its way. The visa expires a certain date. And when you see that, when you admit that I came here because I didn't like something there, and I have come here only to return to the same place, then the right action happens. Then the right center comes into play. But if you keep pretending as if everything is hunky-dory, let's wear colored pajamas and hang around, maybe have a bit of ganja, then we are strong enough to deal with anything. When you escape, avoid or suppress, then you are telling yourself that you are so weak, and nobody is weak. You are stronger than you can ever imagine. God is closer than you can ever imagine.
Then why we become blind not to see it?
Because there were others who were so sure of themselves that they wanted to give you good advice, and in the name of good advice they have simply corrupted your mind.
And what is the remedy?
You see that you have been corrupted. You see that what you think of as love is not love but ignorance. You see that what you deem as sacred is just material, even profane.
I was asking about Big Bang. It's a hypothesis only.
Do you keep thinking about Big Bang? Is your life about the Big Bang? Why must you talk about the Big Bang and not about how you feel while having the dinner?
It has to do with the mind something. It's like universe is expanding and expanding.
I don't know anything about that. You see how we escape? My life is rotten and I want to talk about the...
About the Big Bang.
I'm afraid of my brother and my wife and I'm talking about the Big Bang. What's going on?
You are not pointing what I actually mean. I mean the human brain is like expanding.
Whose brain?
Every human being's brain. My brother.
Your brain. Every human's being brain is being thought of by your brain. So you'll talk about your brain, right? Now what's going on in your brain? You talk only of that.
Everything that I have gone through in my life in all these.
So now you're talking of memories and experiences, not Big Bang.
It's like a Big Bang, my brain.
Like a Big Bang? Your experiences are like a Big Bang.
No, it's like experiences are expanding and they are going and moving away from each other.
Yes. So
It's like a.
just stay there.
Yes.
That my experiences are just
Mind is not a river. Mind is the universe into itself.